Hello, and welcome back, or perhaps for the first time, to Black Jade Island. For those of you who don't know, Black Jade is my hard mode island. Hard mode is a special set of rules created by Nintendox to make the game just a little bit more challenging. This time we hit our 100th day of hard mode, so I decided to celebrate with a special double-length episode. That's what happened. There is no other reason. I started my week by harvesting and watering my crops. Daisy May moved into my field of vision before I could move on to harvesting the fruit from my trees, so I decided to just go take care of that first. She was selling turnips for 92 bells each. Originally, I had intended to go whole hog and buy like 1,000 turnips, but I was too poor for that, so I just bought 3 full stacks and called it good enough. Then I wandered off to check out June's house. I really like how it leaves little footprints behind on the beach flooring. I headed over to Harv's Island to buy this Jolly painting that I had been passing over for the entire week because I thought it was a fake. And then I got my fortune told. Katrina once again told me that I was going to have an upset tummy, but I was too poor to afford her $10,000 bottle of Pepto, so I didn't even have the option of getting it cleansed. Oh well, to be honest, I'm not even really sure what a bad health luck reading even does. It can't possibly be that serious. Oh, okay. I guess we're doing this then. Stone tables were the hot item, so I used up far too much of my stores of stone to make a bunch of them to sell. At the rate I'm going to run out of stone. I'll have to start focusing on gathering more stone along with wood, I say, knowing full well that I will not be doing that. I went to check my fossils, and then I went on to do the last leg of the stamp rally, the art wing. I don't know if it's just because I don't have as much art as I do all of the other things, but this one felt so much sadder to me. Clearly, I did not save the best for last. I went to grab some coffee and was joined by Tommy. He's, probably too young to be drinking coffee, isn't he? I did my stretches, I sold the tables, and then purchased this disco ball. No idea what I'm going to do with it yet, but I'm very excited to own it. Instead of heading directly to the Able Sisters to make my purchases there, I jumped into the ocean to do some diving, because my phone required it of me. I continued diving a little longer after I had fulfilled the requirements of the task, and even managed to fish up a scallop for Pascal. Then I stopped to make myself a cute dress. I'm not crazy about how it came out, but I actually really like this shade of blue. I headed into the Able Sisters to make some purchases. None of the items on offer seemed right for my outfit, so I headed home to get changed at my wardrobe. Once I was feeling sufficiently fashionable, I finished off my 2 times miles tasks. I also decided to finish up my boardwalk. Well, I say finished. I'm not entirely happy with how it came out, and I want to continue fixing it up some more. But I needed to step away and rethink how I wanted this to look. Like with my other big construction projects, I will be posting a speed build once it's finished. The flowers outside my house decided to multiply overnight, so I had to stop to clear them out before tending to the crops today. Flick was wandering around my island, and I decided that today was going to be the day that I got myself an orchid mantis statue. I really should start keeping a list of what bugs and fish I've gotten models for, because I know that I'm going to accidentally double up on some if I don't. But that seems like effort, so... I went to make my purchases for the morning, but I decided that this thing was too expensive for me right then, so I left without buying anything. I tracked down the last orchid mantis and handed it over to Flick before making my way over to the museum to check my fossils and get my coffee. Then it was off to bug jail. I emptied it out and spent some time catching some more bugs to fill up the rest of my pockets. Unfortunately, I lost my precious star-shaped net to entropy, and it dissolved into dust in my hands. I had to replace it with this much less fun, colorful net. Once I finished filling my pockets with creepy crawlies, I sold them all to Flick for enough money to hopefully carry me through the next few days. At least until I get a return on my turnip investment. The turnip price calculator says there's a 40% chance of it being a high spike pattern, which means I might actually make some actual money on it this time. But until then, I have this bug money burning a hole in my pocket. I took this now full wallet to Harv's Island to check out what Red had for sale. The scenic painting was real, so I purchased it, and then headed over to Katrina to get my fortune told. Then it was back to Nook's Cranny to buy that big dishwasher thing. I have no use for it, but it was big and shiny and I wanted it. Then it was over to the Able sisters to make my purchases there. I hadn't been paying much attention to my tasks today, so I decided to spend some time knocking those out, diving for sea creatures, catching fish, planting a fruit tree. While I was in the area, I stopped by June's house to see how it looked when it was fully decorated, and it's given me ideas for how I want to decorate the outside of her house as well. Maybe if she sticks around until the summer, I can get some more seashell furniture for her. I finished off my last 2 times miles task by customizing some gyroids, and then I ended my day by doing some stretching. I started the day off by harvesting and watering my crops. While I was hunting for seashells, I saw this large fish shadow that I really struggled to get the attention of before finally catching it. It was just an olive flounder, not valuable enough to go into fish jail, so I tossed it back, and then seconds later I caught a second olive flounder. I'm taking this as a sign that I won't be having much luck with fishing today. My black rose cloned itself. I dug up the black roses and a pair of the red roses to bring over to the empty spot where Patty's house used to be. I'm planning on turning this into like a flower farm kind of area, but I don't have enough of the right color of flowers to make that work yet, so for now it'll just be where I'm trying to get that blue rose. Then I did such a bad job of catching this Agrias butterfly that it vanished into the ether, and I just have to live with that failure. I checked my fossils and got some coffee. Red didn't replace the scenic painting with anything that I cared about, so it was straight to Katrina for my daily fortune reading. Back at Black Jade, I'd headed into Nook's Cranny. I desperately wanted to buy this pretty blue bass guitar, but it was just too expensive. So I just bought this speed bag instead. I'm sure I can think of some use for it. Then it was over to the Able sisters, where I bought this cool mohawk skull cap. Diving was one of my Nook Miles tasks for the 3rd day in a row, so into the ocean I went. I only caught as many as my phone told me to, and then was off to do my stretches. While I was in the area, I started off a fashion quest with Label. She wanted me to wear a formal outfit, but gave me an extremely tacky yellow jacket. I feel like a used car salesman. Once I got Label's approval, I ran back to my house to change my outfit, but accidentally backed out without actually changing my clothes. Then Wendy decided to invite herself over. I figured that she could wait 30 whole seconds while I changed my outfit, but once I was done, she had apparently just given up and went away, so... Tipper had a thought bubble and told me that she had somehow gotten into a fight with June and wanted me to deliver an apology gift to her, but like, how? June has been on the island for 2 days, Tipper. You need to chill. Anyway, I walked the 3 feet to June's house and delivered the gift. Apparently it was a sweatshirt that looks just adorable on her. June, in turn, gave me a shirt I can't wear. My last 2 times miles task was to shoot down a balloon, so I stalked my beach until one appeared. It dropped a figure skating dress that I've been debating putting into the boutique, but I'm not really sure which dress I would swap it out with yet. Either way, I completed my 2 times miles tasks for the day. I'll level with you guys. On Wednesday, I had a terrible migraine, and so I did the bare minimum required of me for the dailies, and then I logged off and I went to sleep. I harvested and watered the crops. Sahara was on my island, so I grabbed the tickets from my storage to get my mystery flooring and wallpaper for free. I also bought one of every size of rug. I made my purchases, checked my fortune. It was a bad money fortune, but it was the really funny one, so I decided to let it stand. I checked my fossils, I got some coffee, I did my stretches, and I finished the day by clearing out my 2 times miles tasks. I started the day off by harvesting and watering my crops. Gullivar was on my island, so I annoyed him until he woke up, and then decided that I would go diving for his phone later, because I had other stuff I wanted to take care of first, like hunting for more seashells. While I was combing the beach, June stopped me and taught me about Glee. Oh, June, you've already taught me so much about Glee. I headed over to Harv's Island to visit Leaf. I lucked out and he was actually selling the shrubs that I wanted today. Hibiscus. You'll never guess who I bought these for. I got my fortune told while I was there and headed back to my island to make my purchases. While I was in Nook's Cranny, I checked my turnip prices, and the turnip calculator said that there was still a 40% chance that I would have a huge spike on Friday. So I wasn't at all worried that it had dropped down to 57 bells each. I dug up the 4th fossil of the day, but I didn't realize at the time that that was the 4th fossil. So I spent like 20 minutes circling my island looking for the last fossil. And then when I finally realized my mistake, I went to check my fossils. Hello, editing Intergy here, and oh boy, I did not notice when I was recording this, when I was reviewing the footage so that I could write the script, when I was writing the script, I didn't notice until literally just now. This dialogue box. Blather's telling me that this fossil was new, and that it was the last fossil I needed, and that I could have completed the fossil collection in my museum, and I just didn't notice, and I threw it away, and it hurts me. So let's all just take a moment and acknowledge that this happened, and then for the rest of the video, we will pretend that it didn't. Got some coffee. Blathers decided to join me for the coffee, which was fun. He did not, however, join me for the stretches, which was next on the list. Then, without any more excuses to put it off, I went diving for Gullivar's phone. It didn't take as long as I feared, and I was even able to get out of the water near him, which felt very efficient. I finished out my day by remembering that I actually need to clear out the tasks if I want to get the miles from them. I'm sure you can guess by now how I started my day. I harvested and watered my crops. The gift Gullivar sent me was a sideways barrel, which I think is just hilarious. It's not actually just a regular barrel on its side, though. Comparing the two side by side, it looks like the sideways one is a bit smaller. Sparrow had a thought bubble and decided that I needed this teeny tiny party hat. I can't exactly disagree. The teeny tiny party hat is hilarious, and I stapled it to my head, and there it will stay until I find a hat that I think is funny enough to dethrone it. I checked my fortune. Turnip prices had dropped to 50 bells each, and the website I had been using told me that it was actually a decreasing pattern, so I sold all of my turnips to try and recoup some of my losses, but then immediately after the deal was struck, I remembered that I had wanted to use those turnips for crafting materials. Dang it. I hunted and hunted for the last fossil, but I could not find it. After like 4 laps around the island, I just gave up and went to check the 3 that I did have on me. Then I went to grab some coffee. Wilbur was sitting there as well, and fortunately didn't do his drinking animation the entire time I was in there. It's just bad to look at. I don't like it. I did my stretches. It was Friday, which means it was time for me to redecorate my room. I didn't really have as much of a variety of furniture for this one as I thought I did when I started it. For instance, I was 100% certain that I had a tea table that would look great in this room, but I couldn't find it. I definitely remember getting it. It was from a balloon. It has to be somewhere, but it's not in my storage, so no clue where it got to. I decided that I wanted to use the wall planters, but not in that color, so I exited out of the decoration menu so that I could fix them, but Patty decided to take that moment to drop by. And because I was in the living room when she appeared, I didn't even have the choice to ignore her. Harumph. She gave me a pear and played high card low card with me. Then I decided to park it on this cushion here and just wait her out. Eventually, I got off TikTok and Patty decided that it was time for her to go. So I painted my potted ivy red and slapped it up on the wall. It figures that after I gave up on it, I was able to find that fourth fossil. It had been hiding behind this flower the entire time. CJ was on my island, so I preemptively emptied out Fish Prison. I finished off my 2x Miles tasks and checked out the last fossil. Still wasn't what I needed. Then I hunted CJ down and threw frogs at him until he promised to send me a frog statue. He challenged me to catch 5 fish in a row, but I decided to just keep fishing until my pockets were full. I sold the fish for a decent amount of money and seriously debated filling my pockets once more. But then I realized I didn't feel like it. My frog model came in the mail. Nothing else matters. I have a frog. He will live next to my mailbox forever and ever. I harvested and watered my crops. Apparently you can't put gyroids on top of tree stumps. Even though that would be a great place to put a gyroid. This is honestly the worst news I've received all day, and I don't know if I will ever recover emotionally. As revenge for not giving me a nice place to put my gyroids, I have declared war on all trees. Starting with this one, which I shook until it gave me enough sticks to make a replacement for the net I broke yesterday. I wanted some iron so that I could make a nice net, and while I was smacking this rock, a centipede came out. I got so excited, but then I wasn't able to catch it because I didn't have a net. Apparently I was having shooting stars that night, so every now and again I stopped to wish upon them. I caught a catfish, which was much easier than when I did the same thing in Stardew Valley, and I made my way down to Nook's Cranny to make my purchases. I cooked a little food so that I could move some of the trees from outside of June's house and did a little terraforming there to give her a nice sandy beach area. If you didn't know, you can plant coconut trees in the sand that you've placed via terraforming, so I put down a couple palm trees for her. I checked my fossils and donated the catfish. To my surprise, Blathers gave me actual facts about the catfish rather than just do a fashion roast. I got some coffee, headed over to Harv's Island to get my fortune told, but I got distracted by these cute owls. Then I checked my fortune. It was a good luck for belongings kind of day, and Keena of Pineshire was kind enough to explain to me what that actually does in the stream chat. Apparently it stops your tools from breaking, which meant that today was the perfect day for me to start digging up and moving my flowers around. But that would have to wait until later on. I had other business to attend to, such as diving. I needed the cash money, so I resolved to go diving until my pocketses were full of sea creatures. But then I caught this giant clam, so I wanted to donate that one real quick so I wouldn't accidentally sell it, and then it was back into the sea. I did my stretches, made the executive decision to head over to a mystery island. I still had some food power left over and didn't want to break a rock before harvesting all of the goodies inside of it, so I decided to steal this tree. And then I finally got that centipede I wanted. Then we headed out to a cabin island, and it was a vine and moss island again. While I was there, I caught a scorpion that I decided to hold until we got 2 more to give to Flick for model purposes. I also got a recipe for a glowing moss headband, and I think I said it best when I made it. Yay! Now I'm an anglerfish. This headband will be my whole brand for the foreseeable future. After giving it some thought, I've decided to expand the amusement park area to fit in the food court after all. And since my shovel is immortal, that made today the perfect day to do it. Unfortunately, I did have to destroy my sandbox playground area, so I spent some time thinking about where I was going to move it to. I also decided to use this space as a sort of seating area. The idea I had was that parents could sit here and hang out while watching their kids on the playground. That was the concept anyway. I ran out of steam while I was building and decided to just go ahead with the KK Slider concert and call it a night there. Hello again, it's me, Editing Intergy, and I'm just cutting in because this whole episode was cursed by a wizard, I think. I don't know what I did to deserve a wizard's curse, but here we are, cursed by a wizard. Anyway, the footage for this day was bad for reasons that I'm not good enough at computers to understand or know how to fix. So, I came up with a solution. It's not an ideal solution, but, we'll just make it work, and everything after this day will be back to normal, probably, hopefully. I hope. I really, really hope. Okay, well, just onwards to victory. I have no idea when or how or why I obtained these oranges, but I feel as though they are probably illegal, so I decided to trash them with my duplicate fossils once I got those checked. I harvested and watered my crops. Daisy May was on my island selling turnips for 110 bells apiece. I decided not to let last week's failure deter me, and bought 500. Well, I tried to buy 500, but I didn't have enough pocket space, so I ran off to slam dunk my crops and fruit into the drop-off box to clear up my inventory. And then I got distracted by making my purchases. I wanted this weird sci-fi pod thingy, but it was way too expensive, so I settled for buying this panda bear plushie instead. Then I headed over to the Able Sisters to make my purchases there, but not before making my new shirt for the week. I made it green because I wanted it to look nice with my headband, because I wasn't ready to take it off yet. I feel like every hard mode runner makes a bear shirt at one point or another, and this one is mine. I bought some stuff from the dressing room, then I ran back to Daisy May to get those turnips I wanted, all 500 of them. I was really going all in on turnips this week. Hopefully that doesn't come back to bite me. Patty had a thought bubble. I was worried she wanted to move away, but it turns out she just wanted me to catch a killifish for her. That didn't seem so hard, so I agreed. I threw my line into the ponds whenever I saw a small fish, but I wasn't having much luck getting the killifish. I seemed to be catching everything but. I decided to take a short break and headed back to Daisy May. When I had thrown the turnips on the ground, the lines were uneven, and that was just ruining my entire life, so I bought another hundo to even things out. I got my fortune told, did my stretches, finally caught that killifish, and in return, Patty gave me a shirt I can't wear. Feels like it wasn't worth the effort, but it made Patty happy, and in the end, isn't that the real reward? I checked my fossils and got some coffee, finished off my 2x Miles tasks. While I was in my phone, I noticed that I had gotten the achievement for playing 100 days on this file. Goodness gracious, time certainly does fly. Monday, I was having technical difficulties. The TV screen was fuzzy and it kept blacking out, which made it difficult to play the game. So, for troubleshooting purposes, I swapped to playing on my PS4 and hopped into the critically acclaimed MMORPG Final Fantasy XIV that has a free trial that includes the entirety of A Realm Reborn and the award-winning Heavensward expansion up to level 60 with no restrictions on playtime. I hopped over to my island sanctuary to feed my animals, including my best friends, Woolulu, Fuzzball, and Goth Sheep, and also Handlebars. While I was harvesting my crops, I hit Sanctuary level 13. How exciting! After having determined that it was not my TV that was the problem, I did a little bit of Googling and found a solution. Basically, I just needed to unplug all the wires from my switch dock and then plug them all back in a specific order like they're jumper cables. It seems to have fixed the problem. Now, with all of that nonsense out of the way, back to your regularly scheduled... I harvested and watered my crops. I learned the stacked magazine recipe from a bottle. I won't lie, the recipes that are just stack these things on top of each other are my favorite ones. Thanks, message in a bottle. I never would have thought of that on my own. Finally caught my first fly from the tire I had left lying around. 2 more and I can clean it up. I caught an Alexandria birdwing butterfly and briefly considered using that as my model. But they'll be in season for a few more months yet, so I decided to hold off on that for now. I did my stretches, asked Flick to make me a centipede model, which reminds me of when I used to play EverQuest 2. I was whatever the pet summoning class was in that game. I don't remember. It's been over a decade since I played it. Anyway, I do remember the summons being all bug-themed for some reason. I usually don't like bugs, but I think the first beetle summon you got in that game was just the cutest thing in the world. And then I hit, I think it was like level 5 or 10 or 12 or 15 or something. And then I got my next summon, so I tested it out to see what it would look like, and my perfect little beetle friend, who I was allowed to name like he was a Pokemon, was murdered by this horrid, coiling red centipede, and I will never be the same. This painting was a fake, so I passed it up and got my fortune told instead. The Nooklings were buying turnips for 122 a pop. I decided to hold off on selling just in case the price went up a little bit more. Instead, I focused on making my purchases, starting with this cool sofa. Finally, I'll have more sofa options than that green one that I keep using because I don't have any other sofas. Then I was off to the Able Sisters to make my purchases there. Tipper flagged me down and explicitly referred to me as a human, which, while not incorrect, feels very strange for her to just point out like that. She gave me an item or something, I don't really know. I was just so put off by being referred to as a human. I emptied out Bug Jail since Flick was here on the island, checked my fossils, got some coffee. I sold all of the bugs in my pockets to Flick and watched Sparrow just have the time of his life running around in the background. You go, little guy. Then it was into the ocean to do some diving for my last 2 times miles task. I caught a scallop and gave it to Pascal, and he gave me a piece of wisdom that I'm almost certain he's already given me once before. Surely I haven't been giving him enough scallops to be pulling repeats on this just yet. He also gave me the recipe for a mermaid sofa. I'm not going to pretend that I like the mermaid furniture, but I actually don't hate how this one looks. I cleared out my 2 times miles tasks, spent some time hunting for seashells, and then I watched Tipper and Sparrow get into a tongue twister battle. The day began in the traditional way, by harvesting and watering my crops. Then I headed down to see my roses. A black rose spawned from my black roses. I'm starting to get worried about these. I feel as though I accidentally messed up somewhere along the line. I know it's only like a 5% chance that the blue rose will spawn, but this is taking so long. I'm getting nervous. I headed over to get my fortune told. It was a bad friendship fortune. I had the money and didn't want to lose friendship points with my villagers, so I decided to just go ahead and have it cleansed. Back on Black Jade, I made my purchases. The turnip prices dropped to 68 a turnip, so not only were they not nice, but the turnip price calculator told me that I had a fluctuating pattern, which means I have no real way of guessing what prices I might get throughout the week. All I can do is hope I get lucky and manage to turn a profit off of these. At the Able Sisters, I bought this absolutely hilarious pompadour. The only bad thing about it is that I can't wear it while also wearing my headband. I'm still not emotionally ready to take the headband off, so into the storage it goes. My phone demanded that I go diving, again. I feel like diving has become a more frequent task lately. I wonder if it comes up more often during the warmer months. Maybe it'll calm down once we start getting into fall or winter. Or maybe it's entirely random and I'm suffering from confirmation bias. I did my stretches. Red was on my island, so I went to check out what he was selling. The paintings were all well and good and all, but I couldn't help but notice that he was selling a skeleton. This one was covered in moss. So naturally, I bought it, and I have plans for it. The sinking painting is always real, so I bought that one. I keep feeling like we're making pretty good headway into filling out the art gallery, but when we did the walkthrough during the stamp rally, it felt really empty. Well, these things do take time. I checked my fossils, which was my last 2 times miles task for the day, and then I headed up to the roost to get some coffee. I started the day by watering and harvesting my crops, well, most of my crops. Somehow I completely forgot to water the pumpkins in the bottom left corner. I don't know how this keeps happening to me. Somebody dropped an item next to my little garden table. I couldn't tell who it was from the description alone. I sort of figured it was either Fuchsia or Rocket, so I decided to just hand it over to one of them when I saw them. CJ was on my island, so I figured I would initiate the Sea Sports Challenge right away and then just turn it in later when I had more fish to sell him. I caught 1 fish, and then I headed off the island to get my fortune told. Once back on Blackjade, I made my purchases. There was a grandfather clock that I ended up buying because it wasn't too expensive, and then I got this really ugly hat from the Able Sisters. I love it. I would buy one of every color, but I must refrain. I have to save some of my money for other important purchases. There were birds on my notice board, but it was just letting everybody know that my birthday is coming up. It seems like a strange detail for them to include, like, I guess it would make sense, since they put up the notices for everybody else's birthdays, they don't want to leave the player out, but it's a bit silly, isn't it? I know when my birthday is. The game doesn't need to remind me. I went back to fishing. Luckily, leaving my island didn't reset the counter. I mean, the counter was at 1, so I probably could have survived if it had, but still. I tried to give the lost item to Tipper for some reason, despite reasoning that it probably belonged to Fuchsia or Rocket, but apparently I was wrong on both counts. It belonged to Eugene. Instead of trying to track him down, I just decided to do my stretches. Then, when I happened upon Eugene, he had a thought bubble, but I didn't notice, so I was very confused that I didn't get the option to return his bag to him right away. Instead, he wanted to sell me a shirt I can't wear for a price that I wasn't willing to pay, so I tried to haggle him down, but apparently he was not in a haggling mood. He just decided not to sell it to me. I gave him his lost bag and he gave me a different shirt I can't wear as thanks. I went to check my fossils and you'll never guess what happened. I found it. The very last fossil. My fossil collection is complete. I never have to dig up another fossil ever again. It'll be weird not digging up every diggy spot that I see, but that's a good thing. My shovels will last longer. Once Blathers finished telling me about the poster I just earned, I headed up to grab some coffee. I remembered that I hadn't asked CJ to make me a collectible yet, but I wasn't sure what fish I wanted to use for it, so I figured I would just fish until I had 3 of a kind and use that one. I ended up getting the Crucian carp model and sold the extra fish to CJ. Do you remember when I said that I needed 3 stacks of 10 bunches of turnips to do the crafting? It turns out that was a lie that I told you all, and I'm very sorry. What the game really wanted was for me to have a stack of 30. No more and no less. I guess the game didn't want to have to do the math on that one. And I can hardly blame it. I also hate doing math. Anyway, I crafted the barrels I wanted, and then I cooked some kabuan kake to knock it off my list. This does, of course, make my lines uneven once more. My life is honestly so hard. I finished my day by completing my 2 times miles tasks. It's the first day of June. You know what that means. The blue seashells are going to start spawning on my beach. Isabel was nice enough to send me a recipe for this really ugly door plate. Sorry, Isabel, that is just objectively hideous. It was raining, so I didn't need to worry about watering my crops. Harv called me up and let me know about the other big June development, another daily task I've decided that I must complete. Photo shoots with Reese and Cyrus. It's a cute event that I like, and I am going to do it every day until the end of June. The summer shells are so pretty. I wish they were a year-round thing, but I guess if they were, they wouldn't be summer shells anymore. I just really like this shade of blue. I headed over to Harv's Island to do the photo shoot. Because it's only the first day, I didn't have a lot of furniture to work with, but I still think it came out pretty nice. I checked my fortune and then headed over to Leaf to buy some hydrangea bushes to use to decorate my island. I really like hydrangeas. I think they're nice. While I was on Harv's Island, I tried to exchange the heart crystals with Reese and Cyrus, but I couldn't figure out how to do it, so I gave up and went home. They were selling a surfboard at Nook's Cranny, so I bought it to put on my beach and checked out the turnip prices. $135 each. That was about as good a price as I could expect this week, so I decided that I was going to sell my turnips today. But that could wait until after a quick fossil hunt. I thought I was free, but my phone demands that I check 3 fossils, so. While I was looking for them, June stopped me randomly to give me a hanging cube light. Wasn't I just complaining about not having enough ceiling furniture? Thanks, June. You get me. I stopped to sell the turnips and ended up getting 67,500 bells for them, which is still, technically, a profit. So I'm calling it a win. I made some purchases at the Able Sisters, but maybe should have considered holding off on that because Label was on my island, and it was time for another fashion quest. Label wanted me to show her an outdoorsy look, and I think I managed to pull together something that fit the bill. Label liked it well enough anyway. I did my stretches, checked my fossils, which finished off my 2 times miles task, and ended my day with a nice cup of coffee. Isabel announced that we have a visitor at our campsite, so my day was already off to a dubious start. It was raining again, so I didn't need to water my crops. I harvested them and moved on. Once more, my phone demanded that I check some fossils, so I went on a fossil hunt, and while I was looking for them, I spotted it. Illegal flower detected. Criminal, 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 criminal. Samson was my campsite visitor. I guess I could have gotten a worse pull there. It took a while because I kept losing at card games, but I did eventually manage to convince him to move to the island. He decided to replace Wendy, which is, of the peppy villagers, at least it wasn't Patty. I went to say goodbye to Wendy. I'm sorry you had to go out like this, Wendy. It's been nice seeing you again. Sparrow had a thought bubble and wanted me to buy one of his 4 objects. I wasn't interested in any of the clothing items, but a neon diner clock seemed like fun, so I bought it. I checked my fossils to appease my phone, got some coffee, and then headed off to Harv's Island for a photo shoot with Reese and Cyrus. I bought more hydrangeas from Leaf, not even sure what I was planning to do with these ones. I just love hydrangeas, apparently. I checked my fortune. It was another good luck with belongings fortune, so I decided today was the best time possible for me to go digging up and transplanting the flowers that are in the way of some of the walkways I want to put up. Also the food court area of the amusement park that I decided that I wanted to put in after all. I headed back to Black Jade to make my purchases. I bought this chair that I immediately dubbed the ugly granny chair in my brain because it looks like something my grandmother would own, and then I bought these horrible glasses from the Able sisters. Kix was on my island, so I bought some shoes and a bag from him as well. I did my stretches. Because it was Friday, it was time to redo the living room. I wanted to make a room that fit with the ugly granny chair, so it was time for me to make a grandma living room. I ended up not even using the chair in this room, which I do think was extremely funny. I noticed while I was in my storage that I already had a neon diner clock in there, so now I have 2. I guess I can put one up in my weekend markets if I decide to open them this week. I went to work on the amusement park a little more, futzed around with the placement of some of these items, made this path lead up to the plaza, and I got it about as complete as I could without some of the items that I'm still waiting for in the mail. So I went back to trying to finish my 2 times miles tasks, one of which was to catch fish, and oh my goodness, that sure was a fish that I just caught. I cleared out my tasks and finished the day off by donating that big fish to the museum. Unfortunately, I didn't stop to get any Blather's facts from it. Oh well, next time. My crops didn't come in today, which confused me at first. I have a theory as to why this happened. You see, yesterday I had changed the time on my Switch so that my Animal Crossing island would be operating on a schedule that is more in line with my new sleep schedule is going to be. And I'm guessing that after I had changed the clock, the game decided that it had no longer rained that morning, and so my not watering my crops because it had rained just turned into me not watering my crops. I decided to trash the spoiled crops and move on with my day. I futzed around with this area a bit. I'm really struggling to see my vision for this little seating area through. The problem I'm having is that the fountain doesn't want to sit in the center, so it's not symmetrical, which is just ruining my life. I thought maybe customizing the items would help, and I really like the pearl variant on this shell fountain. It's just so pretty. Once I was done admiring it, Rocket decided to invite herself over to my house. I got the pair from her and played high card, low card, and then left because I couldn't be bothered to wait for her to get bored and do it on her own. I did a little more work on the food court now that all the items I was waiting on have arrived, and then I realized that I needed yet more items, so it'll be done soon, I promise. I made this little path leading from the upper entrance over to the lounge. I had a plan for it. I figured I could line the outside with hedges and then put some flowers down on the inside, and because of how the camera works, the flowers would still be visible. The vision was there. The question was just which flowers and shrubs should I use. So I headed over to Harv's Island to see what Leaf had for me. But first, I did the photo shoot. Reese complained about it though. Apparently I didn't use enough pink for her. What are you talking about? There is so much pink in this room. I checked my fortune, and the real reason I was here. I bought so many shrubs from Leaf. Neither of the flower options appealed to me though, so I figured I would just wait and use one of the 8 million flowers I have on my island that I'm not doing anything with. I really considered using either mums or hyacinths, but then my shovel broke, so I headed over to Nook's Cranny to make my purchases. I got way too excited about this cup of noodles, and then I went back to the debate. Eventually I settled on using lilies, but it turned out that I didn't have enough lilies in the colors that I wanted, so I had to come up with yet another plan. I decided that I was going to fill this area with hedges instead. Brilliant. I finished off my 2 times miles tasks on the way back to my house. I was feeling crafty, so I made a fossil door plate while I was at it, and then I asked the stream chat which villager was going to receive it as a gift, and the chat elected Sparrow. So I decided I would give it to him the next time I saw him. But rather than try to track him down, I headed over to the Able Sisters to buy this cute skirt. The radio not being where I expected it to be really threw me off, but I found it in the end. I did my stretches. Sparrow was in his house, so I went to hand it over to him. In return, he gave me a futon. I had caught a mosquito at some point during my adventures and stopped to donate it to Blather's before heading up for my daily coffee. Thomas joined us today. With all of my daily tasks completed, I headed out to a Cap'n Island. It was a vine and moss island. I stole a couple bushes that I wanted to use for decoration, and was delighted to find that every rock on the island was a money rock. Once back on Black Jade, I fiddled with this area some more. I came up with an idea that I thought would work, but then I remembered that I had those bushes I wanted to plant, and because I can only keep one thought in my brain at a time, I completely forgot what I was going to do with this area and wandered away to do a mystery island. The island itself wasn't very exciting, but I did catch a hammerhead shark, so I decided to beat up on some trees to obtain more wood, and really struggled to catch the spider that came out of this tree. While I was collecting wood, I decided that I would catch 3 whole fireflies, so the next time Flick came to my island, I would be ready. I went to donate the spider along with the firefly and the shark I had caught to the museum, and it seems like I had already donated the spider at some point. I thought this was a new bug that I had caught, but apparently not, so I threw it into bug jail. I suddenly remembered what I wanted to do with the sitting area. It involved flowers. Despite all of my struggling, the shell fountain just would not work here, so I moved it over here until I could think of something better to do with it. And with that, the only thing left for us to do is the KK Slider concert. While I have you here, thank you all so much for watching. If you liked the video, go ahead and press the button that tells me so. And if you want to make sure not to miss the next video, please consider subscribing. I stream hard mode on Saturday evenings and do my very best to get these videos out every Sunday. Although this one was obviously, well, I'd like to thank everyone with being so patient with me on this one. Wow, 100 days on this file, huh? It doesn't feel like it's been that long. At the risk of being, genuine on the internet, I know, disgusting, just bear with me. I'm really grateful to everyone who's joined me on this journey. Chatting with you all during streams and in the comments has been a lot of fun. And don't worry, Black Jade isn't going anywhere. I'm still miles away from completing all of the goals I set for myself at the beginning of this series. But I also don't think I would stick with it if it wasn't for everybody's support, so thank you. I hope to see you in the next one.
Now me. Now me. Now me. Now me. Now me. Now me.